um, counseling for parents and children on January 13th. It's a Wednesday from 5 to 7. You can go on Kepler.org to view the class so you know what it's about. I might hold up my book here.
Mhm.
It's based on my book. It's called Kid Wheels. Of course, you're seeing it backwards, but it
Yeah.
really gives you an insight because a lot of people are afraid to do children's charts. How much do you tell a parent? But this gives you a safe platform from which to talk. But it also explains how you can. Oh, Dominique has one. She's
Yeah.
taken this class anyway. You can also use it with adults. Once you understand the technique, it can tell you a lot about that person.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Cornelia. Yes. Yeah, Cornelia did a presentation at our meetup back in the
Back.
day when we were meeting physically in a brick and mortar place before we went zooming.
Let me
Oh,
give
there's another one. I
let me
have
give
a copy
Cornelia a
somewhere.
plug. Let me give Cornelia. I bought this book when we were still at the Unearthed Cafe, and
Perfect.
it's really a good book. So I can really say that get the book. It's really a good book. It really will help you in many different ways, and I found it very helpful. Especially if you have people who, some people will say, "Well, how about doing my kid?" And you say, "Well, okay, now I'm not so worried about having to do kids."
And the other thing to keep in mind, yes, Dominique.
Yeah, I want to plug it too for her because I use it as well for children readings, but also for the parents. Because, like Cornelia teaches you, we're born with our temperament, and everybody's born with the temperament. And that's what she ultimately teaches you how to do in the class and through the book. It's really understand our temperament through the chart. So, another plug for you.
What's it called again? The name of the book,
Kid Wheels.
Kid Wheels.
Kid Wheels.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, I mean, think about it. I mean, it's like we weren't all born adults. We were children. Most of us were kids at one time, and some of us have actually, some have grown up more than others. Yeah, it's. I mean, when you do a reading on a person, you look at their natal chart. That's the baby picture. Yeah. I think what we tend to do in modern Western astrology is we kind of disconnect from the child and how the child develops.
Yeah, that's true.
At some point, I keep saying this, but I promise I will have a program on prenatal astrology, where it all starts. Why I think it's important.
Well, let me say I've been doing that with Jim, and it's quite amazing when you look at this point of astrology and look at the prenatal chart. It's fascinating.
Okay, let's see what we got. We have a bunch in the waiting room. Hang on. Get them all in here. Here we go. Boom. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah. Does anybody have any, we're kind of just chatting here. Anybody have any requests for something that we could talk about at a future meetup? Future Zoom? Any topic? Yes, Cindy.
You know what, I'm doing, I'm in Portland most of the time. I'm here now, but I'm going to be doing a presentation in our Portland meetup on evolutionary astrology. Really just taking the step by step, Jeffrey Wolf Green's
Okay.
formula. I would love to talk more just personally evolutionary, right?
Yeah.
Just step by step. If that's,
I've read a little bit about evolutionary astrology. I haven't really studied it. So I wouldn't consider myself a practitioner of it, but I find it an interesting concept. So yeah, well, let's talk, and maybe we can have you do one of our meetups in the future, since you've already got your program together.
You know what I'll do, Jim, is I could send you the PowerPoint and see what you think. I am not, I've studied astrology for decades, but I'm still very, I still consider myself a novice, even though I've studied for, 30 years.
Well-
But I'll send you my PowerPoint, see what you think. But
Okay.
I thought if somebody else knows a lot about evolution, I'd love to learn more.
Certainly, yes. Well, we all want to learn more. And, that's one of the things about astrology that I love, because as I go from point A to point B in my shiny, I have, at times it seems like I have ADD because it's all over the place. But we're all novices in various areas. I know a little bit about horary. I know a little bit about this and a little bit about that, but I certainly don't consider myself an expert in any of that. But one way to perfect one's knowledge and technique is to actually present something on it,
Yeah.
because that kind of forces you to learn more about it. Right, Dominique?
I'd like to listen to something on mundane astrology, since this has been such a political year. I've been doing charts, political charts, and trying to interpret them. So the
Yeah.
more I learn about that, I would appreciate that.
Okay, mundane. We have mundane, we have evolutionary. Are you making notes, Spencer?
What?
Yes. Yes, he's making notes.
I was still looking at Cornelius' book. I pulled it out and I was like, oh, and then I got carried away with it. I'm sorry. What did you say?
Well, we have some ideas for topics. One is evolutionary astrology and another one's mundane astrology.
Sounds good to me. I'd like to know more about evolutionary astrology. I had met the author several times, and he lives in Seattle. And very fascinating. It's a whole. He doesn't he give certificates or some kind of a way of certification that you've studied with him and you've got the whole thing. Well, Cindy, if you have that, that would be very interesting, I think.
I don't have the certification. That's Jeffrey Wolf Green, and he is in hiding. I don't. Nobody know. Anyway, his daughter has taken over the school. It's the School of Evolutionary Astrology. So Deva Green now teaches, and yes, they still do the certification program. I think they do. I'm pretty sure they do. And it's quite intense program. I have not gone through it. I know that Maurice Fernandez also does a certification. Well, there's several people that do it, but I think Deva would be that a good starting point, because her father, Jeffrey Wolf Green, is the one who really just launched it and it started the entire movement.
Isn't their school based out of, what was it, Hot Springs, South Dakota or something like that?
I don't know. I don't remember. I've
There's-
only looked online. I don't
Okay.
know.
All right, let's get going here. We've got 36 people and we may have a few more showing up, but I'll try to keep an eye on them. Spencer and I were talking a little bit, and before we jump into Gail, let's take a look at, can we take a look at what transpired on January 6th astrologically, and what we have to look forward to next week with the inauguration day.
Same thing.
Yeah.
I've got the chart right here.
Oops, hang on. I did that wrong. Here we go. So what I'm going to do is do a share screen, and I'll pull up. There we go. There we go. What have I got up here? Okay. So I went online and found a basic timeline for the events of January 6th. So here's the chart for 6 a.m. Washington, D.C., January 6th. This is when, the crowds are starting to gather in anticipation of this wonderful fire 'em up speech from the then president. I hate to say that. Okay, so at 6 a.m., what strikes me is that we have the moon making a third quarter square to the sun. So here we have the moon. It's just past the exact point. Moon's at 17 Libra, sun's at 16 Capricorn. And to appreciate what happens, you need to understand the distinction between a first quarter waxing square and a third quarter waning square.
Oh, God.
Okay. Wax on, wane off. Basically, waxing aspects are when the moon is growing bigger. The first, after the new moon, at some point, maybe a couple of days later, you may see a sliver of the moon just after sunset in the west. Okay, we're in the waxing phase. And the waxing phase lasts from new moon to full moon, as the moon grows from nothing to full. Then the waning phase takes it from full back to the next new moon. Waxing phases are expanding, growing times the first quarter square. And you can tell that because when you look at the moon, you'll see that as you face the moon, it's your right-hand side. That right half of the moon is illuminated. For a third quarter square, it's going to be on the left, on your left. The waning phase is when things start to contract, consolidate. There's the process of reassessing, reevaluating, eliminate what no longer serves its purpose, and you pare things down to that which adds value to whatever your life or whatever you might be working on. So basically, the third quarter crisis of consciousness square is one of reevaluating where you're at and evaluating, becoming aware of where you are in life and what's important to you. So what happens? You have this throng of people that have been sucking down the Kool-Aid like crazy, that have these strong beliefs in this man and what he and some of the senators and congressmen and others have been telling them happened. Election was stolen. It was fraud. There was voter fraud all over the place. Well, not all over the place, just in these few states that he lost. Notice, it's interesting that he doesn't challenge any state that any of the other states that he lost. Those few. So you have these people that are already in this mental point where, they're checking their beliefs, and once you drink the Kool-Aid, and when you believe something, when a person believes something, it can be very difficult to get them to change their belief, no matter how much you can show them. I mean, it's like, okay, take the flat earthers. Flat Earth seems to be popular again. You're not going to convince them that the Earth is round. You take people that don't believe COVID is real, they won't believe it unless they get deathly ill from it. Then they might believe it, but until then, it's not real. It's just influenza or something. So this is where all these people are at. They're at this point, and instead of sitting down or being in a position where they can look at and examine the facts, the fact that that no evidence has ever been submitted to show that there was widespread fraud, no evidence has been submitted to support any of the contentions that have been made in court, all of which have been thrown out or dismissed. What do they have? They have, Trump and his sons spewing and Giuliani spewing their line to them, reinforcing this belief for them. So then from this point, they march forward. So if we move along, let's see here, what was it, about 11 o'clock when the Trump started speaking. How are we doing, people?
Jim,
Yes?
can we ask that everyone mute so that we don't hear background noise?
Oh, yes.
Thanks.
I suppose I could try to do that. I suppose I could do that, but hang on. Here's this. All right, so here's the 11 a.m. chart for Washington, D.C. We see that we still have the third quarter crisis of consciousness square. It's still in play. We have the nodes at 19 Sag, Gemini, Neptune at 18 Pisces. So we have that T square of Neptune to the nodes that's going on and been going on for a while. We see Mars at 29 Aries, Mars is getting ready to leave Aries and step into Taurus so he can catch up to Uranus. 29th degree can be a very powerful degree, particularly when the planet is in their home sign and getting ready to step out of their home sign into new territory. There can be some reluctance, hesitation to leave the comforts of the home, while at the same time, some excitement, some desire to move forward and perhaps experience something new.
Can I mention something?
Sure, go right ahead.
I was looking at Olga Morales's Twitter feed, and what she noticed was that Neptune is it's semi-square the midpoint of Mars and Uranus. And so in cosmobiology, that means people doing harm, people going crazy. So that's very fitting.
At that time or when?
On the 6th, January 6th.
On January 6th, okay. At the midpoint of...
Yeah, that whatever day that the riot happened.
Okay, that... What did you repeat?
So the midpoint of Mars and Uranus had a semi-square from Neptune.
Okay, yes. Semi-square, which is 45 degrees. So we've got 33 and 12, yes, 45. Okay, so here we have Neptune at 18. We'll get the minutes for now. So that's 12. So we've got 12 degrees of Pisces, 30 degrees of Aries, that's 42. And then you got 3 degrees in Taurus, that's 45 degrees. So yeah, so you have this semi-square from Neptune to the midpoint between Mars and Uranus.
Right. So dangerous midpoint.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't really talked much about midpoints, and we probably should at some point, because there are some that they're all important, but there are some that are even more important than others, and which ones are most important will depend upon where they fall in your chart. Because if you have a planet sitting on the midpoint between two other planets, even if there's no other aspect going on between them, you now have a very powerful combination.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Spencer, you want to add anything here?
Well, my big concern is where the big planets are and what they're doing to one another. And the other thing I'd like to point out immediately, though, is that Mars is trining Trump's Mars, as is Venus. So this makes a grand trine for him that day. And they're supposed to be easy. I guess it was easy for him to do this because he's got such a cult leader thing. But the thing I'd like to point out is that we're not going to see these kinds of aspects again, where you have Mars on top of Uranus, where we have Saturn and Jupiter. These are all very close squares, and they're going to become exact on the inauguration. So I think we have to look really at what we're looking here with these big planets. We have a planet of expansion, Jupiter. We have a planet of contraction, Saturn. And then we have the rebellious, individualistic, discovered during the French Revolution, Uranus. So I think that all of these powers working together, and then of course, the moon goes in and will essentially square all those planets in Capricorn, excuse me. So I think that we're looking at really a very high-powered group of planets involved in very sharp, hard aspects. And these hard aspects, I think, are something that really needs to be considered as we see that this is what happened on the 6th. And if you take the time, I don't want to take time away from Gail, our speaker, because I know that she's going to talk a lot about this and the coming decade, that I want to point out that if you took the time to do this, you'd see that Jupiter is in almost a perfect square. It's only 1 degree past, and Mars will be exactly on Uranus. So I'm someone who is saying that these big planets, and we're not going to see this kind of configuration again, where we're going to have planets in Aquarius with Uranus in Taurus conjunct Mars for a long time. This is really unique stuff. So that's what I'm thinking about. I see a lot more dislocation of feelings, of group feelings. I see a lot of problems in terms of the stability of what we have. And then, you know, with Mars there, I think that we've already seen a lot of what Mars was doing on this, and it'll become very, very, you can see now it's nearly exact where we're at the 7th now. I mean, the 20th. So that's what I have to put into it. I don't want to take a lot of stuff away from Gail, because Gail has some really great insights from the world of numerology. And so that's basically what I see. I hope that there are people who are involved in protecting our institutions have got a good grip on how to do this, because I do think there's going to be a greater amount of integration that is going to occur on I'll throw one piece of craziness out there that Jim and I were talking about. What if on Inauguration Day, Trump goes with somebody and swears himself in, since he's already the true recipient of a landslide that he claims he has with millions of votes? That to me would be even very more exciting than the fact that I do see a lot of these people who are involved in all these groups. You have the Oath group, the 3%ers, you have the Proud Boys. All of these people came in from distances away just to be at this. And I think that there are going to be more people coming in for the excitement, because those people have gone out and told what a great time they had inside the Capitol. But anyway, I'm going to stop. You've got enough for what I think. So, Jim, should we go to Gail now or what?
Okay, couple of points. What you're seeing right now, hopefully, is the chart for January 17th at noon. You'll notice here we have Jupiter at 6 Aquarius squaring Uranus at 6 Taurus. So Jupiter and Uranus are only going to make one square this year. It won't, and this is again, this is a third quarter crisis of consciousness square. Now, if we zip forward then to the 20th, now we see Mars conjunct Uranus. And the actual conjunction's it's set for noon, which is when the inauguration is supposed to take place. Mars is 5 minutes from exact. And one thing about Mars aspects by transit is that sometimes they happen before the point of exactness. So you got to be careful there. Notice the moon's at 29 Aries. So the moon is void of course, and it's on 29 Aries, the degree that Mars was at when we had the riot. We see Saturn up here at 3 Aquarius. Saturn and Uranus will make 3 exact third quarter crisis of consciousness squares this year. So whatever transpires on the 20th isn't going to be over on the 20th. It's the ramifications for what it is, whatever it may be, will be long lasting. And being the optimistic pessimist that I sometimes am, I might go out on a limb and say, if you think the 6th was bad, you ain't seen nothing yet.
Right.
There is that kind of potential. Okay. I'm going to switch out of sharing. There we are. Oh, I woke up, Gail. Okay, Gail.
Good morning.
Without further ado, anybody have any questions at this point? Anybody have any of their own thoughts they want to throw in there before we go into our main speaker? Once, going twice. Okay, thank you. All right, so without further ado, it's my pleasure to introduce Gail Minogue, world-renowned numerologist. Gail is incredible. I've known Gail for years, and I've had a reading from Gail, and she, it's phenomenal. If you don't know anything about numbers and numerology, I strongly suggest that you do some investigating, because there is a close correlation between astrology, tarot, numerology, and even palmistry. And I think at one of our future meetups, we're going to talk about that, and we'll show you how the 4 of them hook together and how you can literally flow from one to the other and back again. So Gail, The floor is yours.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I'm pleased that I've been in hiding for like 3 months because of my situation with my husband's injury. And so now I'm going to, when I hang up from here, I have 2 potential buyers coming to look at the house because I'm selling it. So it's like crazy time. It's no time to be lonely, but it's really a hard time for everybody. And I think that this tumultuous period is certainly going to continue in all of 21 and will continue on for most of the 20s. So I don't have something like a magic bullet to tell you, but I could give you a background so that you understand it and get more comfortable with it and the necessity for going through this. I think the virus is really, really important because it's the hand that no one can really grasp, and but everything else really sort of depends on the virus. And so even any policy, the virus is at the table setting the tone. So we have a lot to contend with besides this group that just swarmed on Washington. Overall, a bigger picture on numerology and astrology. Um, Numerology is what I call the house. And the energy package, the moment you take your first breath, which is what you are then aligned with, an energy package of a sun and this and a moon and that and a Mars and that and all that, is the energy package that you will be working within that numeric structure. So the structure is essential, and many times you'll find in numerology and astrology that the same degrees of, say you have a life path of this or a destiny of that, you'll find the same degrees sitting in the astrology chart. So just like a house, the rooms in the house are the astrology, the house itself is the numerology. So you really can't really do one without the other. You need to take a look at both. And so they call it sacred geometry or geometric because the entire universe is made up of a divine mathematical order. The whole galaxy is. And one of the things that I've been studying is that our sister star and the importance of thinking outside the box here, that our orbit is in line with another star's orbit that we have. Is there somebody here? Yeah, okay. It taking into account that we're just not orbiting with the sun, we're orbiting with another star. So we have twin stars. So this is a big look-see that we will start to uncover in this Aquarian age that we're in, where we're going to go beyond where we are now. We're really kind of ignorant and coming out of darkness, or the Iron Age. So we have forgotten what we knew. And so the classes like this or talks like this start to make us think outside the box, which is what we're going to have to do for the next couple of thousand years, is to be extremely innovative. This year is just a little picture of even this moment in time in January. It's just a small segment of what we're going to have to do to let go of an old way of thinking, behaving, and doing. And so you will not see a very calm year, 2021. The whole idea is to really wake up this Aquarian age, which is very, very tied to the United States. The United States is the catalyst for the world in awakening up into the Aquarian age. And so the Aquarian age is always thought of as being more of the mind or the intellect, and also higher consciousness. And so it's more rational thinking, it's more enlightened. And what you're seeing a lot of right now is a hanging on of an old Piscean age of superstition, rumors, fear, all of that kind of collective consciousness. It's really still left over. There's a lot of fear left over from the Piscean age because we're barely into the Aquarian age of rational thinking and enlightenment. So you see, on one aspect, you see the scientists madly and very, very well doing with the COVID vaccine, and the idea that we're really compressing time, which would have taken 10 years to come to to market has been done in, say, 8 months. And you're going to see a compression of time and some phenomenal breakthroughs scientifically through the 20s, so that the 2030s are going to really have a very, very different day. But we got to get through these tumultuous 20s, and we've got to start to release some of the what I call the age of Pisces qualities, the heavy religious stuff, which is very Piscean, more of the rational mind, more of the enlightenment, and more of a scientific nature, so that we will explore space and we will understand when I say we have a sister star, or that we orbit as well as the sun. So this double orbit, that we don't even think that way yet. We don't even look at that, and that possibility exists, because probably about 80 to 85% of the star systems are twin stars, and we're no different. So we have basically a sun and another sun. And as we orbit into this, with this other star, as we orbit with it, as it gets closer, as our sister star gets closer to a center of the galaxies, of, say, what we call a benevolent force, we rise as a society. An effect of us is a rise as a society of more benevolence, more advancement, way more advanced. And as we go further away in this orbit, we again decline and then come back, and we repeat this great 24,000 year. So it is a phenomenal time, because we are rising, but we're rising out of a very dark period. And even though we think we left, say, the dark ages, we're actually coming out of the dark ages. And I think with this conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn in December, this event in Aquarius is something that hasn't happened. I don't think I wrote it down, but I think it was like, golly, 1405. So that was the Renaissance was just getting underway in the 1300s. So we're at the beginning of a new Renaissance. And remember what happened in the last one. They kill off like a third of the population because of the plague. And I find it pretty on time that we kill off part of the population with a virus, and the virus will have many variants. It wants to stay alive. So it's not like it will go away, but we will have better vaccines, more vaccines. We cannot manage right now the situation very well. We need much more vaccine. We need Johnson & Johnson and any other smaller companies who will create the vaccines for us, because unless we get this in manageable sense, we're not going to be able to do the other things that need to be done here. This will take priority. This is the seat at the table that has to be addressed. And money really needs to be thrown at this now to get the distribution right and to be able to manufacture more. I really think the world needs a Marshall Plan, similar to World War II. And I'm hoping that when Biden gets in, that more of that will take place, because right now it will take years, and we will have a broken economy. So, no matter how we'd like it to be otherwise, or what transit, the overall theme is taking place. And two things to keep in mind: when we crossed over into the year 2000, we activated strongly the number 2. We had been 1,000 years in the number 1, and which is a very masculine number, and we cross over into a very feminine number of the number 2. And she's just rising now, and you're seeing a period that will go from 2004 to 2024, where she is being prepared and groomed for power. And so in 2024 is really where she'll launch. And so you're going to see the election that you've been waiting for will be 2024. And in between, from now to 2024, it's a lot of chaos, a lot of tumult, a lot of erratic patterns in our society, but still the innovation will go on. And if you look at our society and you look at it from an Aquarian perspective, you will see the breakthroughs that happen in science, and the breakthroughs that are coming in science are remarkable. I mean, just remarkable. So that by the time we are in, say, approximately 2030, you're going to see, really where people can reverse some aging, and you'll see the things that people have just been dreamed of. But first we got to get through the 20s, and first we have to really deconstruct the government and the people that have been running it, and that's what's going on with all of this. But the COVID was necessary. I find it remarkable where that it really came in an air sign of the sign of Gemini, which affects the lungs. It would stay here to do its job, and it will eventually just fade out as it leaves the sign of Gemini and goes into the sign of Taurus. So we're seeing that now, because about the time when it would start fading away from Gemini is when we started to really begin the vaccinations. Now they will continue, and they will, as long as we get a distribution system going and much more manufacturing. Otherwise, we're going to be at its mercy throughout the year with really not much of a breakthrough until the fall. And so it's essential that the scientific community continue on, that the government gets a grip on distribution and throwing money at it. And I literally mean throwing money at it. We're going to have to do a lot more than we've done financially this year than was allowed to be done in 2020. There will have to be another, shall we say, throwing money out at the public, because it's until you can get some of this, what we call 85% of the population in a better financial situation, you will see more and more of us going into a recession, because it's only a very small group that really have benefited from the last big jolt of money, and certainly from the tax breaks. So there's going to have to be more of an equality, very, very Aquarian, and more of a rebellion against this, which doesn't surprise me a bit. The Luddites who are out there, the leftovers from the religious groups of the Piscean age, the collective of the Piscean age, the fear and superstition of the Piscean age, you're seeing it in full blossom. You're seeing it as it's like a dying animal, and we need to be aware of what parts of the society do we need what to shine the spotlights. Certainly there are legitimate grievances in parts of our culture in our United States, and you have to go and deconstruct it. And this is what part of the virus did. Without the virus, we would not be having this conversation. So the virus, in its own respect, did its job, just like the plague killed off a third of Europe, which then killed off the feudal system, so that those workers who were left from that last plague, major plague, were more valuable, and they eventually got rid of this feudal system of lords and peons and serfs. And the serfs managed to be able to become merchants, and introducing the printing press all came along during that 300 Renaissance year period. So we're in the beginning of a Renaissance. So we can't get all gloom and doom. This is what it looks like going through another plague and getting this new, shall we say, period of enlightenment activated, so we can rise into more of a golden age for humanity. And the United States plays a major, major role in this. The United States has this, like, they bought the Kool-Aid, all of us did, about exceptionalism. And yes, we have a chart that is quite remarkable, and America will always land on its feet. It is a 5 country. We're in a 5-year. Expect a lot more turmoil and change, and fast change. Like one day you're sitting here at a store, and next thing it's being bombed. I mean, it's fast change. All through this year as a 5, we're a 5 nation. We're in the soil, and as a 5 nation, we were formed with a lot of Aquarian energy to be the catalyst of change for the world, to teach the world to assimilate. Well, we're not assimilating very well. So we're showing all our pimples, warts, infections, problems, because we don't know, we don't want to, and parts of the culture do not want to assimilate. And the powers that be that are left over, the old power, the minority, is hanging on for dear life to religions, to power. And you're seeing it in our leaders, that nobody had the spine to go up against a carnival barky guy. Nobody. They wouldn't. They supported it. They enabled it. And it had to go. And this is how it's going. And my feeling is that you will not see him run again. You may see him try to activate in primaries. He'll go after primaries with the money he's raised through his a couple of months of, I mean, he's not stupid. He's a smart guy, of raising money for a few months for his causes when he gets out of office. And so, and he, you know, he has that very conflict in his own chart. I think his Saturn is in Cancer, and people with that position, and I don't know the house or anything it's in, but there's a common trait that with Saturn, that they're really damaged from their parents about their incompetence. And usually it's coming from the father, that they're either stupid or that there's undermining their competence. And they kind of go two ways. They screw up, sabotage their career to prove their parents right so that they will love them in some deeply unconscious manner. Or they'll say, I'll show you you're wrong, and I'll keep showing you you're wrong, and I'll double down, and I will be right no matter what, and I will win no matter what, and I'll show you you're wrong. So you see actually both of these conditions in him. He was sent off to a military academy that's a punishment in his day. That's what you did with somebody who you couldn't control. They were out of control. And I am sure that he has either ADD, ADHD, or other issues that were never addressed as a kid. And he was allowed to go out. And this is the first time he's really been stopped and in disgrace. And so he cannot admit that. All right. And so he will go out, and my feeling is he will try to back primary candidates against those who are the incumbents in the Republican Party, because the only thing he can do is, I'll show you, I'm going to come after you. You were disloyal. So he's really screwed up in the head now, and he will do that. And so it is up to the citizens of this nation now, what do they want? And so here it is laid out, the breakdown of the system, okay? The hanging on to an old Piscean religious affiliation, which is the country is becoming more progressive and away from religion, and trying very hard to hang on to it so it can be, a tyranny of the minority. And it's interesting, the states that, as Jim said, that he only went after the states that he lost that could help him to win. So he would do it at any cost, whether he lied, doesn't matter. He's got to he always knew he was not competent. He always had very bad self-esteem, and it's never left him. And when he leaves here, in a way, you just see his own suffering, and you see how he will self-sabotage, which is pretty common with this condition. So, but where it leaves us in the country, it's up to us to really not hang on to an old way of, even in your own personal life, okay? Because democratic principles are going to have to take a real firm hold, and we have to be extremely vigilant and extremely conscious, extremely vigilant, because there's going to be a lot of struggle. That's the right word. Struggle between the old government and structural paradigms and what can fear to be anarchy. So the reactions are going to be overly authoritative, especially in totalitarian regimes. And so it is something where we're going to have to, they're going to manipulate the public mindset. I mean, this is not just in the United States, and they'll manipulate it for nefarious purposes and very much control-oriented agendas. And you see it in these heavy-duty masculine countries where these China, Russia, Philippines, I mean, Hungary, it goes on and on, where these are taking place. And again, this is an old order that's dying, because as we move more and more into the number 2, you're going to see a situation where females take over. And that's not going to go down too well, but they are. I mean, there's nothing that can stop an idea's time has come. And the energy of the number 2 is at work. So you're seeing more and more females in power. California has a law that you have to have, if you have a headquartered in California, you on your board of directors, you have to have at least one female, and then there's diversity required. So we're trying very hard to establish in the country this future of the feminine quality, the feminine leadership. And until that is done, you're still going to see the old male hang on for dear life, and it won't do any good. And you'll see a lot more pain and suffering in our country, in the United States, if people, because there's this struggle now between the old government and the fear of anarchy, and then this new, what I'd call enlightenment period for the United States. So you're going to have many, many choices, because a lot of these are very erratic planetary patterns. They're going to prompt you to really integrate transformation, and they're going to push you but where you don't want to be pushed. You can't do things the same old way you did. It's not going to work. And I can only see in my life how this is playing out. I'm Aquarian, and I've got some heavy duty planets right now conjuncting my first house. I have 8 degrees each, Taurus and Jupiter, and a sun in Aquarius, and I got a lot of stuff. Anyway, it's exciting, but it's like almost out of your control. Don't try to hang on to what you know is changing. Don't try to hang on the tail of whether that dog is going to go, okay, whether you believe it or not. And so the same thing is happening. The old ways will not work very well. And they will also mean you are going to miss one of the most dramatic periods of transformation that's being offered to you right now. So it's like it's like these celestial bodies are working to bring about this transformative period for the world, and particularly for the United States, because of its role as a catalyst of change for assimilation, so that we as a country can assimilate this type of person, that type of person, a mishmash of people and nationalities. And you're seeing this huge pushback from those who are here, those who are white. They don't want this. They're afraid. They're fearful, and they're losing. So it's just like the sting of the scorpion, the last thing to go. You're gonna. I mean, look at the mishmash of characters decked out. Who ran the Capitol. The other thing too, which to keep in mind through all of this, is that this transformative period is going on. Whether they can handle it or not handle it, is they'll be left behind. And that you don't want the United States to be left behind. One of the things about Joe Biden, and then you have to think of the Tecumseh curse about who's ever elected in this year will not finish their term, whether that holds up for him or not, or whether he has illness and he passes the torch to Kamala Harris, who has a 5 life path. So pay attention. She could end up being the president. Not surprising. I always look for who are those with 5 life paths who are running. And she ran and then dropped out, but she still has a 5 life path. And that is the country's number of change. When it wants to make the change, it will bring in a 5 life path president, which was Lincoln, which was Roosevelt, and which was Teddy Roosevelt. And we haven't had one since with a 5 life path. But you have 5 in Kamala Harris, who is a sleeper. And so she was not seasoned enough to be president at all. Whether she will become that in the next few years will be questionable. We'll see. But there's very possibility that he won't finish his term. And there's very possibility that not because he dies, but that he perhaps has some kind of thing, illness or something, or he decides that let her finish it up and then run. Something like that. So you need to be aware that there's a lot of business going on here, and that the United States, with its role as a catalyst of change for the world, that's its job. And so we're being forced through this revolution, which it is. It's a revisit of the American Revolution with a bunch of ratty souls, just like the American Revolution was the first time. This is another revolution. It's the anniversary, going through it again at a different level to bring us back to what we said we would do as that catalyst of change for the world. So we, whether we like it or not, must learn to assimilate. And the old ways are done. It's like change or be changed. And that's really the bottom line. So we are going to be run more by females. And until she can get into more positions of power, you're not going to see some of the things you want to see until she's positioned better, which will begin in 2024. It's also in the I Ching, what I call the Li period, and that is the ninth period, and that is represented by the middle-aged female. So you're going to see women who have been just being groomed in their 20s and 30s and 40s now ready to go into power. And that's a very powerful, strong period that will last till 2044. Very, very strong. So we have to break the system down that we have now, get out of office of a lot of the enablers of this old system, those who are in power. That will mean changing term limits in the next 10 years, new amendments to the Constitution later in the 20s, these kind of things, because we're really preparing for 2030. And that is when we have some good stuff, but we got to get through the 20s, and it is not fun. It is scary for those who will not change. So you cannot live a life that you did before. So there's this struggle between the old governments, including ours, people in it, and watch these politicians say anything to keep power so they can get reelected. And so we, the people, are the ones who are going to have to make the changes. And unless we do, unless we, just cogitate by ourselves, unless we're willing to make some of these, form domestic support for these changes, we're going to be economically, financially stammered, shall we say. So you can expect much more erratic financial markets in 2021 than they were in 2020. Much more erratic. Sometimes it will just completely defy logic. Some places are going to really do well. And in some places, they're just going to languish. So you have to really, if you're in the investment world, you have to be very aware of what is going on and pay attention. And don't just hand your stuff to somebody else to do for you. You need to be aware of it. But everything is changing. Nobody expected a virus vaccine to be done in that shorter period of time. And so what you thought was going to take forever is not in the scientific world. It will not take forever. But unless we pay attention, we will see a bigger recession in the United States, and money needs to come out pretty quickly because there's a lot of people languishing. This 600, what I call dumb relief package they just passed, took 9 months to do, was in the dark of night, is very weak. So, but you're seeing already everything starting to be repriced in the marketplace. You're starting to see like buildings that were once hotels be converted to homeless places. And you're starting to see street dining, using streets to eat on, okay, and dining venues, more stores and shopping malls converted into housing, it's where people live kind of communally, which is very Aquarian, living communally under one roof. And so you want to, there's segments of the society that are going to be very prosperous. Drones, transportation, the flying car kind of thing, businesses that purify the air. Remember, Aquarius is an air sign. So there's going to be improvement in air travel. Okay. And also water, oxygen delivery systems, heating and cooling, ventilating systems of air. Okay. So this is very, pay attention to what's going on and stop paying attention to just the volatility because yes, that's going on and that's what, but pay attention to these other areas that are booming. Artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, all these technologies that hold virtual 3D. I mean, I was reading, and I don't know where I read it. I thought I wrote it down. Some scientific breakthrough for cancer. I mean, I'll find it, but I don't know where I wrote it or I mentioned it. Anyway, I thought it was remarkable. But anyway, there's just massive innovation in the economy, which is very Aquarian. And this will be continue to 2021, 22, 23, 24, and on. It is businesses, as I've shown this year, they had to adapt or die. That's it. And disturbingly high numbers died. And there will be more new creative businesses. And this is also an indication in our lives, we have to adapt or die or die a lower level of living. Okay. But things that would have taken forever to innovate, by this virus, everything got accelerated in business and branding, and things that would have taken 5 more years to innovate have taken 9 months. And it is through businesses, through science. So we're going to be doing a lot of things very, very differently. So it's massive innovation. And so we can't just, yes, innovation in our government, in the way we govern, and the people have to get involved. And we have allowed and shall we say enabled this person to say and do things that we knew were lies. It's like, well, that's okay. Why is it okay? If your kids did that, that would not go over well. If your spouse did not, you would not go over well. If you did not, that would go over well. But we have allowed this to go on and on and on for a very long time. We have turned our head away. And this is what happens when you ignore. And if you ignore what happened this week on the 6th, and if you ignore the things that are going to happen throughout the country now, if we ignore this, we will reap a heartache, real heartache. And so we have to pay attention. There has to be accountability to what was just done. And it's so that we also know you cannot do that. We're a very cavalier country. A 5 is like, yeah, it's okay. Someone will take care of it. Don't worry. Or we'll shoot our way out of it. No, and no. We have to grow up. And one of the things I want to mention about the United States, it is a country just like other countries that have gone from colonialism. They have to go through a barbaric period into a civilized period. And you can see in the United States, we still struggle from a barbaric period to a civilized period. Europe has gone barbaric, civilized, decadent. They take, bureaucratic, but they've gone through the barbaric. I mean, they had war after war after war after war in Europe, and then they became civilized. And now they're more like in a decadence. You think of as a little more like old ladies. But the United States is still going from barbarism into civilization. And you see, I thought it was ironic when you look at the outfits that some of these characters put on themselves, it was weird, fur, like kind of tribal things, paint their faces and wear furs and walk around with Confederate flags and just sort of like a bunch of barbarians who took over the village, and we're just going to behave badly and we're going to trample on this and that. And then it's kind of like this, there's the barbaric side of America. And also the same with the inequalities of America. America has bought the Kool-Aid that it's completely exceptional. It has an exceptional chart, but it has to learn to grow into it. And it's still learning to grow into it. And it's a 5 country, which means it's a catalyst of change, which means it does the same thing over and over and over until it learns it, in which America keeps doing, keeps investing in stupid wars. It keeps investing in these type of behavior until it learns that it has to really be accountable for this. And so that's how a 5 grows and then becomes a very wise, practical catalyst of change. We don't know how to do that yet. And we're throwing out to the world, we're a bunch of bigots and kind of stupid. And we break all our treaties. We've done that since we were born. And we have to learn how to come out of the barbarianism of ourselves into a more not conservative, but certainly more advanced society. And so we need to really look at ourselves and say, how do we let this go on? And why did I be silent? Why was I silent? And why was it okay? And write up things in the papers and read that this, oh, it's just Trump. Oh, he just said that. Oh, we just said this. Or I know that they're backing him, but that's okay. What can I do? Well, what one person can do is a lot. And, you know, for instance, Hitler had a 5 life path too, and he did a lot. And so one person can do a lot if they're interested. And so there's a lot of complacency going on. So it basically has to learn how to work with our life path of being a wise catalyst of change for the world, learning how to assimilate, which we don't know yet how to do. No. And that's why you see these cities where there's much more assimilation resented by areas that are more isolated. And yet there is very little done for these isolated periods and places to really say bring more of the world to them so that they can be exposed and also have better situations. So my feeling is one of the things that's going to happen to this society in order to do it well is some of these areas of the society will have to be subsidized by the government to help these people to move up, have opportunities, have better broadband, have better structures. We certainly have closed the hospitals in a lot of these areas, so there was not good health care. You know, the virus just showed you all our warts. It was super, did a super job. And it also, and in some strange way, it's also was a vehicle for the elderly to exit quickly if they chose. Now, that's another whole area. We didn't see one protest of old lives matter. Not one. So it sent a message. We have sent a message, us sent a message that old lives do not matter. They're in nursing homes. They're out of sight. They're warehouses of death. And we have been taking that and letting that be okay for many, many decades. Many decades that we could allow that to happen. And now you see it and nobody likes it. But what's happening? Who's doing anything? There wasn't one protest about old lives matter. There wasn't one protest, nothing in the streets about that. And so it just tells you what we value in our society. And that's why we have to learn to come out of our barbarianism, to learn to appreciate wisdom and appreciate enlightenment and appreciate the use of the mind to reason rather than a bunch of salespeople, which we have in Washington and we have through all parts of the governments of this country and the society itself. Because the number one person who can sell you a product, an idea, is the number 5. They're the best salespeople on the earth. So the country is basically a country of marketing and sales. And we sell our weapons and we sell this and we sell that. And that's what we do. And we sell, you know, we used to say we're number 1. We're not number 1. We're really not exceptional. We have an exceptional plan. And we sometimes follow it and sometimes don't, but underneath is the rot. So what the virus did is uncover the dirt under the dirt. So it's been a heck of a time. It's going to be a heck of a year. You've got to be willing to make changes. And one of the things I say to my clients that I said, one of the things that that will help you stay young is to lower your resistance to starting over. Lower your resistance to starting over. So it's like an artist, and they start over, they finish this painting, they have another big canvas blank, and they fill that in. And what's happened to me, as I say, wow, what a year, because my husband took a terrible fall in February, severe brain damage. Finally, by October, I could no longer, he was in and out of hospitals for 4 months, got COVID, went through all this stuff. And then finally, I had to put him in a facility in October and go through all that, which is out in Chatsworth, and I'm in the city. And I finally, I just could not maintain my home financially, physically, and decided to go on the market. And that was a real trip, because then you have to stage your house and you have to move stuff out. And I'm getting rid of things which I never wanted to get rid of. And what happens is your home becomes a storage locker for everything. The bigger your house, the more you can store. And so one of the things you're going to learn is this period is lighten up, lighten up, lighten up. So I've moved out stuff. I had a buyer while the house is being photographed for the multiple listing. Someone comes along with a agent and gives an offer, and it was like 15,000 over ask, and they wanted to close in 30 days, and I got them to go 40, and it all looked good, but they ordered seven separate inspections. I had a foundation inspection, I had a termite inspection, sewer inspection, pipe inspection, electrical inspection. I mean, a mold inspection, and then a general inspection, and went on and on. I'm like, I can't take this anymore. And so I asked the universe, I asked the invisible world, hey, this is enough. If this is not the best buyer for me, I want this sale, I want this endeavor to end, and bring on the correct and the best buyer for me. And sure enough, yesterday I got back, they want $35,000 for, they want $35,000. And they basically basically want money to probably do some remodeling, who knows. So that is like wasted my time for a few weeks. And I just said, I'll give you 10 and that's it. And this kind of erratic crap has been going on for months and months. And when I sell this house, I am not a homeless person, I'm a houseless person. And what I will be doing is probably renting a studio so I don't get COVID anywhere. And because I was thought of Airbnb, but then I don't know, I don't want to be in I have tenants in my townhouse and I want to move in there, but I have to give them 60 days notice. So I'm like, wow, can you handle uncertainty? Can you handle financial uncertainty, physical uncertainty? Can you sleep at night? And there's a point where you have to let a lot of things organically stay on top, make wise decisions based on almost the current events of that day. And this is what I mean by, can you adapt to the situation and change? Because this year is a hell of a year. It is more tumultuous in the markets, in the money markets, than it was in 2020. 2020 was interesting because the people who benefited the most were those who were in the markets, and less than 50% of Americans are in the markets, in the stock markets. And so you're seeing a segment of the society, a small segment, that is really making the money. So this year, there's going to be more money coming out, okay, coming out to the public, and most likely some changes in the tax structures, which could possibly then lower the investment level for what we'll call businesses, and not as attractive, or they'll pay more taxes. And so that too will have effect on pricing. So because pricing is basically high, as the dollar goes down in value, which it has, we will have to pay more for overseas goods like China, and our prices for the consumer will rise. One of the worst things that Trump ever did was put tariffs because it damages the consumer. So I feel that this year we will try to get some of these tariffs lowered because it hurt the consumer. So financial markets, if you're in them, you need to pay attention, and you need to look at the trends and stop thinking like the past. The past in this situation is not prologue. It is not. So U.S. trade policies should be changing for the better this year, U.S. trade policies, because we'll be lowering the tariffs. And I don't think they're going to disappear instantly, but I think they're going to be lowered, which will help consumer good pricing. And, basically we are a Walmart nation, we're a Walmart nation. And I just sold because I needed the money. I had property in Arkansas, in Bentonville, and my property sold, closed, funded, wired in 5 weeks. I mean, I'm thankful that Walmart has done well, on the area around Walmart has done well, and we are a Walmart nation. We may think we're exceptional, but we are a Walmart nation. And the more we can appreciate the people of the Walmart nation, the more these people, this part of the population, can be helped, rather than the upper echelon and that elite. The less reaction, the less protest. It's an economic condition. It needs to be addressed. And I think it will start to be addressed this year. But until you do, until you get the virus under control and adjust the Walmart nation population, that you're going to still see these riots, still these backlash, still all this going on. So it's a very tumultuous period. I do see improvement when 2024 comes, because the females will be much stronger. And when the females are stronger, less focus on defense money, less battling, more integration, and all of that. So it kind of is it's like an overview. Remember, we're the catalyst of change. We have to learn to assimilate. And even though, I mean, we're in the city, so for a lot of other people think we're the elites. I'm hardly elite. I can tell you that, especially this year. Wow. And, but we're entering the leap period, and you see in the I Ching, these big 20-year, 40-year periods. It's 20 years of preparation and 20 years of strong power. You just saw it, and you see what the power is leaving now. You saw it. Anything went with Silicon Valley, where it was all run by young men, and that was the Ken period, which is before the Lee period. So 1984 to 2004 was the prep period. This is where you saw Facebook, and if you had an app or anything would sell, a game. And so then in 2004 to 2024, it gained so much power. So you have the young Turks of Silicon Valley. And now you see, as that period ends, which it is ending, that doesn't mean Silicon Valley ends, but you see a disbursement, and you see a maturity of it, and you don't see what we call these unicorns, these companies, because that Ken period is dying, and it's changing and morphing into a more adult. Now it's antitrust. This young male is not being honored. Okay, and that means gangs and terrorists and all that. So when 2024 comes, and the strong period of the Lee period begins with the middle-aged woman, you're going to see what you saw with young men take the power. You're going to see it with the middle-aged female take the power. It's a very powerful period. It's coming. It's not here yet, but you see it all being set up. How many women got elected? The Stacey Abrams, just that changed the face of policy and politics. And then it will change the economic. Then it has to work into the military and the police and the defense. It has to work all these areas. So it's exciting. I'm very positive. I'm going to use myself in the 2030s, and we're going to be able to detect if you have cancer without any, in the prostate, without any biopsy. you're going to see changes that are huge in the innovative in the science world, because it is a Aquarian period, and we are rising. If you take the Jorgen, you go to the big 24,000 year period, then you know that we're rising in the early part of the Bronze Age, and we're coming out of the Dark Ages. That's why we're just kind of waking up. We've been quite ignorant, and we kind of play in the dark. We had this and we have that, but we don't really understand how the galaxies work yet. We haven't traveled them yet. We will be. The Aquarian Age will take us in the next couple of thousand years out into them, and we will understand much more. We're in the dark right now, and we're still trying to figure out, and we have not a clue. We create a narrative, and then we go to try to find the proof of it. And so we're going to change science, the way we look at things, and which is, to me, it's very, very exciting, you know. So I don't know, maybe I should stop talking, because I probably should. Anybody still left? Any questions? Okay, am I muted? No, I don't hear
Um,
anything.
Gail,
There you go.
you are
We are.
phenomenal.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Gail.
Does it give a little bit bigger picture of
Yes.
yeah, so you was like, okay, I got it. This is all part and parcel of a much bigger program. Yeah.
What I
May
found
I ask
interesting.
a question? Hello?
Yep.
I don't know, you might have addressed this because I logged in late, but is this year for real estate for selling? Is it good or bad? Is it
It depends. Well, I'm selling, and it's one of the good things that interest rates are extremely low. I mean, the lowest they've been, I think, ever. And so that's a good thing. There's very few houses, and unless you're going into new tracks, but there's not enough inventory. That's why I hope it's good for me to sell my house right now, because there's hardly, where I am in LA, which is the mid city, there's very few houses for sale. So people are going further out. It depends where you are. Certain areas are just booming. So I don't know where your real estate is.
LA?
It's LA, then it's going to have to be what part of LA? Yes, real estate is still very, very good, but there's just not much of it.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you know, I've had so many, I have this townhouse out in the valley, and I've had so many realtors call me asking me if I would list it, because it's in that sweet spot. It's, you know, it's under 500,000, you know, it's like you can't find anything anymore. You know, for that. It's where, it's really where, if you start getting into the upper end, where you go, say, $1.5 million, you have really more buyers, because this I'm like, I'm looking at the profile on my house, and I said, well, who's going to buy this? And they said 34 to 40-year-olds. So I had to stage my house to 34 to 40-year-olds. And then, okay. And then I'm like, well, who are the 34? Well, they're people in the entertainment industry. They're high tech, and they're like lawyers. And I'm like, really? 34 to 40 can buy this house? And so sure enough, the buyers that just wanted 35,000, they had 7 inspection. Sure enough, they're in their 30s, and he owns his own business. And I'm like, good Lord.
Wow.
And so I didn't listen to
Interesting.
myself when I staged it. I didn't like some of the ideas that my stagers had, but my stager and the broker were in sync, and I was really out of whack. So I'm like, who God? And my good stuff, my precious stuff, is taken out, and I'm now living in a foreign land of other furniture. And yet I've come to love it because it's simple. I realize how much crap I collected, and I'm like, oh my God. And this is the way to go. And but it took me adjustment, and I paid attention. I'm paying attention to those who are really in their area know more than I do. But as far as housing goes, it's again the same old thing. Area, there's so little inventory. Are you a realtor, or are you selling or buying?
No, I'm not a realtor. Our house was in the market, but it didn't sell, and I was wondering if
Your house?
Yeah, it's okay.
Well, the
It's,
main thing a house doesn't sell is not priced right.
yeah.
That's, you know, it's just not priced right.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
if you really want to sell, stage it and price it right, and you will sell it.
Yeah, maybe we needed to stage it.
Oh, definitely stage it. Definitely stage it. You believe me, I've done it without and I've done it with, and it's like night and day.
Can I ask a question, Gail?
Yeah. Hey, Cornelia.
Hi.
Hi.
All the advice you gave me in the 8th and 9th year have come true. I mean, I really worked on financial stuff during the
Good.
8th and 9th year. And
Yeah.
now I'm in a 1 year and I have a 1 year
Yay.
life path.
Wow.
It's the beginning of probably my last cycle because I'm going to be 90 this year.
Well, hey, listen,
So,
we want to plan from 60 to 90, then 90 to 120. So
okay.
if you're going to be 90, then you need to have a plan from 90 to 120. What do you want to do? So we don't, problem with why people leave early is they don't have a plan. They just think they're going to retire. And then they just linger and the body says, why am I staying? And it prepares to leave because the body
No,
is not going to stay unless you
Well,
give it
this
some
is a
purpose.
5 year and it's a 1 year, and 5 years the last pinnacle I have. So my life has always been, you know, since I've gotten older, constantly changing.
Good for you. That's
So
all we can depend on anyway.
what
Really.
change? Yes, of
Change.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, what I want to do is creative stuff.
Good girl. You're in an innovative period now. Very innovative.
Right.
So innovate and don't listen to anybody
No, I won't.
unless it's your stager. If you're going to
I
stage your house.
I put a picture up on my bathroom mirror that says, release the tiger within.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. That's really kind of what it is. I'm going
Yeah.
into a 4 year, so it's like terrific.
Oh, great.
God, my personal 4 year, even though I'm in a 5 year and I am a 5, so there'll be a lot of change, but there's going to be a lot of work around it. And I'm already, you know,
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
but business is picked up. So I'm grateful. That's another thing.
Don't
We got to
you
be grateful.
think us-
We got to be grateful. You got to be really grateful right now.
Don't you think astrology is going to become more important in this new age?
Both of these, both numerology and astrology, definitely. The arts, we need to be more in tune with the invisible world. We don't realize that's where we're going. We're so attached here. But yes, we need to be really aware of the invisible world, and we know very little about it. And so we're very frightened people. Humans are pretty frightened, and they're terrified of change. So coming
I look
in,
forward to it. I think it's great.
well, you've gotten wise, and that's why we want to live long, and we can pass that on to people. To be an
Well, that's what I'm
example,
trying to do.
so 90 to 120. So what do you want to do for the next, what lifestyle do you want for the next 30 years? And people need to concentrate on the lifestyle they want
Right.
rather than just
Well,
moving
I'm
where lower
concentrating
taxes
on it.
are.
As a matter of fact, I'm changing a lot.
Good
I'm going
girl.
to change a lot of stuff this year.
Yeah, it's not a what I call a peaceful year at all. Even though the number 2 is very peaceful, it also is. It has a lot of work to do to get this age launched.
Well, because I knew 2020 was going to be difficult, I started a journal, and I've kept a journal the entire year of what's going on in society. And so now I'm going to start the next one to watch the changes that Biden brings in, see how that goes.
Yeah, he's having the Senate won for 10. It's both a curse and a blessing. He'll be able to do certain things by having that, but it could. He's actually a cooperative person. He has an 11 life path. He's a master number, like Reagan and Obama and Clinton. They all had master number 11s. So he will try to, cooperate and compromise. But the problem too with an 11 is indecision, and I'm praying that he doesn't go into that part of him where he just waters it down too much. Anything to keep the peace. That's not going to work. if you, it's like you want to be like Bismarck, steel in a velvet glove.
Mhm.
And I hope he's just not a velvet glove.
I think Kamala will help him do that.
I think
Kamala.
she's the 5. He needs to have a five behind him. She's missing a 6 though, so she's got to learn a lot about letting people know she really cares. She doesn't know how to do that yet. She's a lot of talk, but she doesn't that other part, because missing 6s stay very heavily guarded.
Gail?
Yes.
A couple of questions. One is, somebody asked how you calculate your year number?
Oh, your year number, your personal year is from the month of birth and plus added to the day of birth. So your month and day, you get that total, added to the universal year, and 2021 is a number 5. So whatever your month and day, add it to 5, and then you'll get your personal year. Like I'm in a 4, and I'm like, well, work is going to consume me this year, whether it's personal or houses. It's interesting, some of the transits with this Taurus, it's going to affect me with housing. It's like, really? I wouldn't have known that. And so there's movement and change naturally in a 5-year. So it's really heavy on the US because she is a 5. Heavy, and more changes. And the thing about a 5-year is that a lot of the change takes place the stronger you get into the 5 years. So like fall, it's like, then you really can see the big picture. You see these bits of changes, and then you see the big picture of what was being created, say back in February. You start to really see it in September, because that's a 5-month is September.
Yeah, okay.
And you'll see it by then.
The United States is a 5
Yeah.
country. It's a 7-year for the United States, right?
I don't know. You know what? I didn't do that. So we're born 7/4, right?
Yep.
Yep. It's a 7-year for the United States. And you know what a 7 is? Faith over fear. You're always tested in a 7-year, faith over fear. You have to come from wisdom. And so I'm going to tell you, if it's a 7-year for the United States, Americans are just worn out, because a 7-year is a year of restoration, rest, reflection, and assessment. And that's what we need to be doing. Restoring. It's always a year of restoration. And
Isn't it also innovation? 7?
Not really. No, it's more planning and assessing and reflection the last 7 years. So it's that having that, being able to process what happened over the last 7 years. Where are we going? What do we need to do? So it's planning, reflection, assessment, and restoring.
I can see that already coming up, because they're looking at all the loopholes that have to be filled so this can't happen again.
Yeah. Oh, there's a lot. So they have to reflect the last 7 years, not just through Trump, but before Trump.
Right.
In this cycle.
Could you maybe quickly go through the individual numbers for the year for people? Like if this is a 1 year?
Sure. If you figured out your year, if you're in a 1 year, this is like Cornelia is, then this is a year you start things. You don't finish them in a 1 year. You initiate, you innovate in a 1 year. So if I had any plan to really maybe do a business, okay, I might launch it in a 1 year and get it going and get it started. So you're coming out of an ending period, and you want to make sure that you don't carry a lot of that past forward into this new innovative period, because each period is 9 years. So you're in the first year of a 9-year cycle. So what you seed in a 1 year goes all the way through the next 8 years. So seed well. Don't be dilly-dally and think, oh, I'll just do this and dabble. Really think what you'd like to initiate. You don't see the fruits of your labor at all, but you start to modify and innovate, and that's a 1 year. You start. And then the number 2 is your patience year. This is a year to be patient. Your seeds that you planted in your 1 year have to get roots. Do not talk about your plans in a 2 year. You are more vulnerable. And also it's a year when you always want to, quote, be with another, because it is a 2, it's an other. And so the 2 years patience, you're more vulnerable. Do not talk about to anybody about what you're thinking of doing, or don't go around and ask, what do you think? That's not a good thing to do anyway. You have to you have to become your own counsel anyway. So it's really important in a 2-year, but it's patience and let your ideas get roots. It's when we talk about them that they get blown away and they don't get roots. So it's very important is the 2-year. And it's also, you might feel lonely if you don't have a partner in a 2-year. It's like, I don't want to be by myself anymore. And then in a 3-year, it's a year of expansion and creativity, because the 1 and the 2 years now are united and you start to see the fruits of your labor. Sperm, egg, unite, here's the baby. Okay, 1, 2, 3. And so we go on the 3. So that's a year when you really start seeing what you planted in the 1 year come up, and you weed what you don't want. You weed out what you don't want, but it's creative, it's innovative. Do not get scattered in a 3-year. It's a tendency to get scattered. Play the piano, chew gum, dance, whoopee. No, focus your creative energy on something. It's a very creative year, right? I don't care what. Create. In a 3-year is when I had one of my children. So that's really creative. And so 3 is very creative, joyful. Change your appearance, for heaven's sakes, in a 3-year, improve upon it. And then number 4 is knuckle down like I have to this year, build, be methodical, be organized, be structured, be disciplined, results oriented, and lay the foundation for your work. So I have to lay my foundation for my new levels of work that I want to do. And so it's like you roll your sleeves up. It only lasts a year, so don't get discouraged like, is this my whole life? No. So 4 years: work, order, productivity, structured, methodical, discipline, results. 5 is change. If you're in a 5-year, you change. What do you need to change? Maybe you need to change a job. Maybe you need to move. It's a great moving year. And again, you solidify more in the 9th month, where you know really about what changes you really want to make. So, but it's change, freedom, unexpected change. You may have been going to New York and all of a sudden you find yourself in Columbus, Ohio, and you never thought you'd be there. And so it's learning how to make constructive changes versus destructive because you're bored. Constructive change. Number 6 year. Now that we've done all that, this is more of the responsible, creative service year, where we are involved with the family, we're involved with their issues, we're involved with helping them. We become sort of a therapist, or we bail our brother out of jail, where we become more community minded, service minded. Also very good for the arts because it's a higher level of the number 3. So the 6 year is very loving. You're very needed in a 6 year. So watch your health. This is a very good year to change your health habits, is a 6 year. Don't overdo because everybody needs you, but it's a great year for harmony. Okay, so you'll be maybe called on in the, and don't feel like you'll go, I'm stuck with this. Don't do things with resentment. That's like the kiss of death. And so number 7, again, is a year of rest, assess, restore, testing you with your faith over your fear. And so it's a planning year, it's a reflective year, processing the last 7 years. What do you assessed it? What changes do you need to make for the following 2 years of this cycle? And then the 8 years is your harvest year. If you've done that all, you need to be able to go and harvest from all of this work. And you will look back to, what did you start in that number 1 year? That's what you should be harvesting in your 8 year. So your 8 year is think big, connect with power, stay in that power mode. You will be dealing with issues of contract and money and business and all that stuff. And then the number 9 is finishing this out. So if you're in a 9 year, it's a year to let go. People die, you can lose things because you need to get rid of them. Don't hang on to stuff that wants to leave, whether it's a person or a job. It's a year to let go. And that is not a negative. When I think back on prior 9 years, 1 year, my mother died in one of my 9 years cycle. Another, I got divorced in my 9 year. Another, a job ended in a 9 years. Like, wow. So there's always an ending in your 9 year. But and you find out, it seems so hard at the time, was such a blessing later. So you have to always think, this must be God's best idea, because it sure isn't mine. But I know it's working out. and all things work for the good, or whatever you want to tell yourself, but you want to bless and release what needs to go in a 9-year. And again, more creativity, because it's even a higher level of the number 3, the 369. The 9 years is the year of charity. So you need to be involved with giving back without worrying about what's in it for you. You need to give back without worrying about what you get. 9 is you just do it to help. And you don't need credit, and you don't need to be acknowledged. It's like you put it in your karma bank where you are of help and some type of charity. That's a 9-year. You're closing out and you're letting go. And I like 9 years because it's a time period when a lot of stuff gets completed. If you've been writing a book, you finally write it. If you've been engaged for a long time, you finally got married. So it's okay to get married in a 9-year, as long as you didn't meet them in a 9-year. If you meet somebody in a 9-year, that will not last the way you think whatsoever. So if you start a new relationship in a 9-year, it's like Farmer Brown. He doesn't go plant in the winter, and you don't go plant a new relationship in a 9-year. It's not going to last. It's not going to grow right. A 1-year, 2-year, great. 3-year, great. Not a 9-year. Okay, what other questions are there for me?
I just want to get clear on how you get your number, and that was phenomenal. This is phenomenal. Thank you so much. So I take my birth month plus my birthday and add them together.
Yeah.
So, and then I add the
universal year.
So this is a 5.
Yes, 2021. If you add 2 plus 2 plus 1, you're going to get 5. So you add that to your month and day.
Yeah, so my total is a 4-year. Oh boy.
Oh, so am I. So we're going to be very productive this year.
Yes, okay, good.
We're going to be productive and results oriented, and we're going to roll up our sleeves, and we're not going to complain. This is part of the 4, and we are laying a foundation for our true work. Remember, there's your right work, there's your true work. You always want to go for your true work. Most of us stick with the right work. It's safe.
Gail, here's a question.
Thank you.
Sure.
So do you give more weight to a person's life path number than to their attitude number?
I don't know, what is an attitude number? What is that?
Yeah. I'm not sure okay. Mark, unmute here. Let's unmute you, Mark. Or unmute yourself and let's find. Yeah. What do you mean by attitude number, Mark?
Oh, hi there. It's actually, my name's Lauren, but I'm using my boyfriend's account.
Oh, sure, no problem. Hi.
Hi there. Thank you so much. I've heard that there's something called an attitude number that's comes from when you add your birth month plus your birthday. But I guess it might just be a kind of a different system. So if you're not familiar with it, it's okay.
I mean, I didn't know whether you're talking about your personality or, personality number.
Month plus day.
I got it from Glennis McCants. If I'm sure you.
Oh, I don't. I know, but I don't.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I don't want to cast aspersions on other numerologists. But if you really want to get into real numerology, you go into Dusty Bunker and Faith Javane. Those are the real solid numerology books. If you really want to get anything by Dusty Bunker and Faith Javane, and then also you want to get The Beginner's Guide to Constructing the Universe by Michael Schneider. These are not pop stuff. Okay, they're good. They're not hard to read. They're phenomenal books. There, you got it. Isn't it a great book? It's so good. And we want to stay away from the surface stuff, celebrities and BS like that, and made up stuff.
Is there significance to adding the month and day of your birth? Is that some kind of a number?
Yeah, but it doesn't play. I mean, some people say, well, there's my, what is my challenge? Challenge, everybody has a challenge in life. But for the most part, you want to look at the name. The name is the most important. The life path of the date of birth is going to tell you your timing, and it's going to tell you the road you're going to be on, the major lesson that you're going to have to learn that destiny through. So your name is key to your destiny, to the personality you'll use while you're here, and then what motivates you from the vowels. And the first vowel is very different than, say, that other vowel, and they all have different meanings. And so, and the last letter is important, and the first letter is important. So the name is critical to your what you are about. The life path, basically, I'm a 5. Yay, I live on 5 Street. Okay, that's where I live, on 5. So I can expect 5 Street to behave and do and experience these things. But what I do with it and how I work with it is all in the name. Everything's in the name. All my issues, my karmic issues, all in the name. And
Gail,
some go ahead.
What name are you talking about? Your given name, your
Yes.
name, your legal name,
your registered birth name,
with the middle initial and everything, or the
middle name, if it has a middle name, or middle initial, if it has a junior, that. If you go like these 3rd, 4th, or 5th, and you're like some of these military people do, that doesn't mean anything. That's just how you're placed on the earth. You're the 3rd of that line, but the junior makes a difference. So it's the first registered birth name, because you create your blueprint before birth, and then implant that on your parents' subconscious to give to you at birth, or whomever is going to raise you at birth is going to do that. You know, because sometimes
Can I ask a question, Gail, about that?
Yeah.
My birth certificate says female Hanson.
Yeah.
I wasn't given a name until I was 2 when my mother died.
Then when you use that, did you register as whatever your birth name was at 2? I mean, the name you were given at 2. What did you use? What were you called as a child?
Flipsy.
Was that a nickname?
Yeah.
Okay. What was registered? When were you registered? Were you registered?
1931, I was registered as female Hanson.
And then
I didn't know that until I went to get a passport when I was an adult, and they wouldn't accept it. And I had to get my name. I had to have it changed on the birth certificate.
Yeah, so you still have to use female Hanson.
Oh,
That's underlying.
Really?
It's underlying everything, and then what it was changed to. So you have a dual track. A lot of people have dual tracks because they're adopted. They'll be given a birth name, and then they're adopted a year or 2 later, and they got this name, but this name is always underneath, moving, affecting.
That's good to know, because I didn't know that. I kept wondering about that.
Yeah. So remember, there's a lot of fine tuning going on when we come in. A lot of people hate their names. They don't understand why they have them, but it's a set of numbers. That's all it is. And energy of sound behind those numbers. So
that's the other thing I was given my mother's name.
Yeah. But see, your Cornelia is a very powerful name because the first vowel is an O. Anybody with a first vowel of O is power. Donald Trump, Howard. Okay. I mean, you can go through the whole litany of O's. First vowel O. Joseph. Okay. So we have Joe and Don. And these are very, very powerful because of the first vowel is an O. They have to be the boss. They want to be the boss. They like the boss. They don't want to play second fiddle. So Cornelia
I've never been that way.
It gives you a lot of power.
No, now's the time to find it.
Yeah. Well, no, now's the time. Just use it.
Yes.
Because you already got it.
Right.
Okay. It's just starting to practice.
That's what I said, the tiger within.
Yeah, there. Okay. Roar. All right.
Yeah.
Hi, Gail. I have a question. When it comes to your year number and the universal year number, how do you integrate both of them, and like how do you know which is more of the universal energy or more of your own year energy?
You work really on your energy, your personal energy. That's your most important.
Okay.
It's much more powerful. It's like the apartment building versus your unit. Which is more important? It's your unit.
Okay, got it.
It's your apartment. So that's how you think about it. Yes, this is affecting you. Yes, this apartment, has run control or not, but your apartment is its own, and that's how you look at this. So yes, I'm affected by the 5 energy, but my own personal year trumps it. Definitely trumps it.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Can I follow up on that for a second, Gail, about the personal, your year? Like you say you're a 5 year. Does that go from your date of birth, Or is that, does that go from January 1 for all of us?
Well, the whole year is, say, a 5. I'm born in February, so I start to feel my personal year come in November. You start to feel it before. Now, if you're born in December, okay, you're kind of like in a combo year because you have the old energy still coming in and leaving you, and then you have this new energy coming in. So you work under almost 2 influences later if you're born late in the year. See, an energy always when a year is coming in, okay, let's just take this year. January and February are really kind of sleepy months. We don't really get going with starting new programs, new things till March, the 3rd month. I don't care what year it is. That's just the way things activate. It's like sleepy waking up. It's the light is coming in, we're waking up. So even though we're in, say, a 5-year, you're not going to see effects of this change come in to about March, where businesses really do better. Our lives take on more, because we have more crap of the previous year still playing out. Just like January is really playing out November. We're really cleaning up November. And it will take really till March to see some of the things you want to see. But for the most part, if you're born late in the year like that, like October, November, December, you still have some of that old energy from your personal year, hitting into that new, even though that's been there since January. So you kind of have a duality going
Hey,
on.
may I ask a question as well?
Sure.
I had a reading, it's like 3 months ago. And the school that she comes from, she said a lot about the year that you're born. So she actually told me that my numbers, it's actually always around the numbers that the date that I was born, that I am 11/14/1978. So she told me that I'm going to the number 2, but as you said, to count, you just gave us this number. Actually, I'm going to my number 3. So now I'm confused, because the way she said, she's been reading for 18 years now, and I got kind of confused. She said, my year starts with my birthday, not with the New Year's Eve, like the new year.
Yeah, but the energy you're working under has already started.
Okay.
And so where you personally have born late in the year, you do have the energy of the environment you're around in. It's already affecting you, even though your personal year is, say, 2, you have this other energy working on you. So you work in a dual kind of atmosphere. You can't ignore, like as a 4 personal year, I can't ignore the 5 that's going on all around me. It's just affects everything. The more I try to be more methodical, disciplined, and structured, the more change is going to happen out there. So you're kind of working in 2 realms whenever we're born late in the year, because you still get the energy of the current year. If it's a 5, you're going to get the current energy of the 5 working on you, as well as your own.
Yeah, that's why I'm 5 as you, Gail. So that's interesting.
Oh, are you? Yeah. 5s are late bloomers because they have so much living to do. And they have to always understand they are like the hand grenade. They throw in the hand grenade and walk down the street, and everything else changes that they defected, but they're gone, So they're great salesperson. They could speak anyone's language. And by the way, Trump has a 5 destiny. So he's a carnival barky.
Thank you, Gail.
I'd like to.
Sorry.
I'm sorry. I feel a lot of paper trying to talk. I just had a quick question about what you said about your name. So your legal given name first and middle name, if you're given one, is what I should be looking at?
Prior birth name, which was registered at birth, is what you look at.
Okay, this is not including my last name. This is just including my first and middle.
Is that what you were born with?
Yes.
You didn't have a last name at birth?
So, yes. So it's all 3 of them?
Was that whatever was registered?
Okay. Okay.
I mean, some people have 4 names. I had one client who has 5.
Yeah.
They were
I
British,
understand.
and like, wow, they just wanted to honor
Okay.
these family members. So they have 5, but a lot of people just have 2.
Gail, along these lines, what if somebody was born in a language or in a country that uses a different alphabet, like Russian or Hebrew or
Yeah,
Arabic?
yeah.
How do you do that? Do you use the anglicized version in order to get?
I have to use the anglicized version. I have to.
Is there a different tradition in those?
Well, it works really more on energy. Like in Chinese, I have Chinese clients, and they all have given anglicized names, and we work with that. And but they can actually go, if you can find a numerologist who will work with energy of the say the Asian language, that would be very different. But I can only work with the anglicized versions, and a lot of them, like in German or Dutch, a lot of these accents are removed. But it's amazing how accurate it is, even though it's an anglicized name of because I have a lot of Middle Eastern clients, and they give me their anglicized names. And I think they've had them forever, even though they had an Arab name, they always had an anglicized name, whether it was from school or what have you, or was given to them. I don't know. And I have people who have several different birthdays because they were never registered. They were born in the desert. That's hard to work with sometimes. Any other? I've got
I'd
just
like
a
to
few
pop
minutes
in.
because I have to leave, because I'm going to have some
Yes.
potential buyers come today, and I've got to go and vacuum.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I can't tell on my screen. I was wondering if you could speak about the children born into this time, last year and this year, and kind of what that looks like for them.
Yeah, I'm very bullish on youth of the country. They are exciting, and people born now into this Aquarian age. Thank God. I want to get these old players out of here. Fortunately, they didn't take care of their bodies very well, so they will leave. And but I'm very bullish about the youth. They're way ahead of us, and 'twas ever thus. So I think it's great. I have great appreciation for what's coming with them. And so many of the children that are born into financial hardship have a different attitude about stuff, accumulating stuff, and how they discuss, how they talk to each other through their phones, which is really preparation for mental telepathy down the road. That's really where we're going. This is what it's teaching us, is how to communicate without speaking. So, but that's way down the road. But it's coming. Yeah.
If somebody wants to have a reading with you, what would be the best way to get in touch with you?
Oh, thank you. Gee, William, I just go to my website, Gail Minogue, 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 Gail, Minogue. Gail@gailminogue.com is my email address, or go to gailminogue.com. And I have a beginner book. It's good. It helps with divine design, how you created the life you are living. Remember, you did this. You did this life. Okay.
Gail,
you're here for
Gail,
two.
Put your name in the chat. Put your name in the chat so people can see it spelled out. And
how do I do that?
Okay, I got it, Gail.
Oh, you got it? Okay,
Yep.
thank you. Somebody help me here. Thank you. I'm so thankful that my camera is working, because when they staged the house, they just dismantled my desk and they took it away. And they left everything in shambles on the floor. And so I hired a guy to come back and put it together, but he never hooked up the camera. And I noticed that, well, the camera is like way away from the PC that I have, and everything is staged, so you can't have this or that. And so I jerry-rigged this camera, and I didn't even know if I was going to be seen today, and I'm like so grateful. So if you could put my name up there, Minogue, Gail Minogue, thank you. That's kind. So I take one more question, then I have to go. Is there one more? Is that it? And I always think.
I have a question. Do you see there will be some redistributive or distributive justice along with this Aquarian age? That
Yes.
the rich won't continue to get richer and the
Yes.
poor won't fall behind? There will
Yes.
be an equalization?
Yes.
Are we going to
Yes.
see that in our lifetimes?
Yes.
We
Yes.
will. Okay.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, because this is one reason the COVID was very good and positive. It showed the inequities in so many areas: justice, financial, political power, just so many things. If we didn't have the COVID, we'd still be going along eating our, Cheetos. But yes, all of that. Yes. Be patient. Do not get complacent. Get involved, and know that 2024 is just 3 more years away, and that we can launch more and more into this age where we can then change through the amendments. We're going to have a couple of amendments, but they're not going to come for several years. But we have to be changed. The United States has a great chart. It just has a super chart, but you can be given a great blueprint for your life and you can waste it. And I mean, it's amazing. You look at a chart and say, wow, that's fabulous. And they're living in a homeless tent on Vine. I'm like, well, what happened here? And so we've been given this, and what we do with it now, it's basically government by the people. So, and we can't really honestly live with this inequity, both in the financial and the justice. And I mean, I hear a lot of, I have a lot of clients, a lot of people, and I live in LA where I'm ground zero for homeless. And it's awful. It's just awful. And we have passed many bond issues and everything to pay for it, and nothing, very little. And why have we not protested homelessness? Why don't we come out and do that? So it just shows you somebody else will take care of it. No, they don't. And this is, if you leave it to them, this is what they do. So this is what, Aquarian age can be a bunch of anarchists if we're not careful, or it can be the rights of the individual. So you have to choose. Okay, I've got to go and got to vacuum and clean so that somebody likes to buy this house.
Thank you so much, Gail. I'll be in touch.
Wish me luck on this house, that I sell it before the retrograde.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I got to go, guys. Okay.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. It's great. I love you, and I really appreciate your being there today. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye, Gail.
Bye.
All right, everybody. I just sent general
How do I
message out
leave
to
this meeting?
yeah, just there you go. You're gone. Send a message out to everybody. So with Gail's information. Also, if you've got questions, requests, whatever, Spencer's email is in it. Mine too. So you can contact one of us. There were several great suggestions that came from people for future topics. So I think we're going to be in a good place to set up a pretty interesting schedule for the rest of this year. Next month, our scheduled meeting is going to be on Valentine's Day. Noon. We'll go ahead with it. We're going to probably be talking about couples, but from a different perspective. One of the things that Spencer and I talked about was the idea that love is lovelier the second time around, looking at some famous people who were married, got divorced, and then married somebody else, and how their second marriage, maybe their third, seems to be the right one for them because they've lasted. That one has lasted. We may take a look at Elizabeth Taylor and Richard Burton because they married and divorced twice. And we may also take a look at Prince Harry and Meghan to take a look at whether or not we think their relationship will last. And if you've got any relationship questions or things that you'd like us to touch on, please let us know. And we will do our best to get you the answers you're looking for. Well, we'll get you the answers. It may not be the answer you're looking for. Spencer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you all next time.
Yay.
Yes, see you all next time. Dominique, it's good seeing you. When do you want to teach? When do you want to do a presentation?
I was just brainstorming. My mind was going. I'll think of something.
Dominique
Yes.
or Jim, I was wondering, you know,
Oh, hi, Michelle.
what about, hi, I know, I'm incognito. I was going to message you about, what about brushing off the talk you gave about the big three and about some of those elementals?
Oh yeah, I'm actually putting together a workshop. So maybe I can present sort of that for here because it is going to be based on the elements. So
we have a lot of new members, and I think that might be a good place for people to get kind of back in. So that was just my suggestion.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll be in touch. We'll figure it out.
Okay, so okay, you were talking to Dominique, not to me, about the elementals.
Well, talking about doing it here, maybe.
Wait.
I was just encouraging Dominique to come back. Y'all don't need me as much.
Yes.
But
good idea.
Since you're bringing her up, I was thinking about it, and I was like,
Yes. Okay. And
well, yeah.
And,
she should
and
do
you,
that
Michelle,
again.
when are you going to do something again?
Well,
I think you should do about I think Michelle should do about the homeopathy stuff.
Yes.
She's
Yes,
got
that
some good
is.
stuff to share in that realm that maybe could be connected to astrology. So
It totally is. There's a whole for all the
you
salts.
too, girlfriend.
Okay. So we have we have midpoints. We had a request for something on some of the minor aspects, such as semi-sextile, semi-square, the sesquiquadrate. So there's some minor aspects that I think are, personally to me, I think are perhaps stronger than others that have not been given due credit. We haven't talked about midpoints. And so at any rate, Spencer and we'll be talking about some of these topics that came up. We may send out maybe a little questionnaire or something where people can pick their favorites so that we can start planning ahead, looking for volunteers, such as maybe we can talk Cindy into doing something on evolutionary astrology, and we'll all join in. And you're muted, Cindy. We can't hear you.
You know, I will, because I have already worked up most of the PowerPoint presentation, because I'm doing that presentation in February 2nd for my Oregon group, but only with the caveat that I'm not an expert. Okay.
Well, okay. Now, do you want to put in a plug for the Oregon group? You know, here's the thing, folks. There are other astrology meetup groups around the country that are doing the same thing. They're doing Zoom meetups. So by all means, take advantage of them if you can. Look into them.
Then I'll put a plug in for mine, and I'm just co-organizer. We meet every 2 weeks. The first or second Tuesday, it's evenings. It's called Astrology Social PDX. So we're in Portland, but I'm like half-time LA, half-time Portland. So we talk just about a variety of things. It's really my co-organizer who organizes, but they've done a lot of mundane. But there's a group of people. I did an evolutionary astrology presentation a few months ago when we were in person. Well, ages ago when we were in person. It was ages.
Yeah.
So we will follow up. And the first presentation will be on the past, and the next one was going to be on the future. But it's a terrific group. It's every 2 weeks.
Yeah, I remember I participated in one a few months ago that was on fixed stars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which was very interesting. Now, I'm a joiner, so I belong to a lot of different astrology groups. If you don't belong to any, but you're thinking about joining one, you might want to consider ESAR, International Society for Astrological Research. My reason being is they do free presentations to members usually every Sunday, and they have some very good talks, interesting speakers. Today, they actually had 2 of them today, and then there was another one today also by another group I belong to, the Organization of Professional Astrology. So it's kind of like, well, oh my gosh, where do I go from here? The first one, there was one this morning from under ESAR. It's out of Spain, so it was in Spanish. No hablé español. But I wanted to participate because it was about Lilith. So, and I found it certainly interesting. And I'm sure it'll be more interesting once I get the slides translated. And then there was another one, the one from the Organization of Professional Astrologers was about horary. And then at noon today, same time as ours, they were doing one, there was another one on the lunar nodes and karma.
Oh,
So those are some ideas. You can, if you go to the ESAR website, you can probably look at go to the events section and you can see all the stuff that they're offering. And you don't have to be a member to participate, but I think there is a charge for non-members. Membership for ESAR is not, from my way of thinking, all that, not that bad price-wise, but you know, these are weird times for people. So I understand that, you know, I consider myself one of the fortunate few because I had a really good job for 40 years and retired, and I'm in comfortable financial situation, shall we say. In fact, this last year we've actually been able to save money simply because we had to cancel all of our trips. We didn't get to go look for any ghosts. Oh well. Okay, so if you think of any other topics that you would like, let me know. I'll get this posted, and I will also, I might edit, but I might send out to the chat, or at least from the chat, I'll extract those topics that people suggested and send that out to everybody that's in the part of the meetup group, so you can see some of the topics that have been suggested that we're going to try to incorporate. And so if there's something else that you think of that you would like us to cover, let us know. Let Spencer know, let me know. Pass it on to somebody, and we will, if we can't do it, we'll find somebody. Yes, Danelle.
Yeah, just real quick, what was the name of that last organization you said that has having the presentation on the nose?
That's what I wondered too.
Oh, that was the International Society of Astrological Research, ISAR, ISAR.
Okay,
I think it's isarastrology.org, I think is their website. Okay.
Just Google ESAR, you'll get it.
Bye, everybody.
Yes, Cornelia.
Bye, everybody.
No, I said bye. Bye, bye, everybody.
I've got to go too. I've got some stuff to do.
Okay. Good seeing everybody. Goodbye for now. I'll get this, the link for this up as soon as possible. So take care, stay well, and watch out for next week.
And stay in gratitude.
Bye for all. See you next month.